3, 2, 1. Hi, this is William Ramsey. Welcome to William Ramsey Investigates. On tonight's show, I have a very special guest. His name is Stephen Sanzeri, Sanseri. He wrote a book in 2012 titled Ultimate Prey, the true story behind the Yosemite Sightseer murders. So it's going to be kind of a dark subject. Involved a series of deaths that took place in 1999, and pretty graphic and grim stuff took place. But Steve wrote a book about this true crime event and was really right there in the mix of all these very curious and some very dark characters. He's going to talk more about that. So Steve, can you talk a little bit about yourself and how you became involved in the story of the Yosemite Sightseer murders?
Sure. No, thank you for having me on, by the way.
Sure. Thank you.
I was a bail bondsman, and I had offices up in Calaveras County, San Francisco, San Mateo County, and a few agents, and we posted bonds throughout the Mother Lode, Mariposa, Tuolumne, Jackson, and I got a phone call to bail a guy out named Paul Candler, and we normally don't get like criminal history and such, but I was kind of warned this guy's kind of a screwball and that kind of thing, so we bailed him out. That was $23,000 bond, and just right off the bat, I knew the guy, just something about him, and with criminal history, I found out later, was involved in pedophilia, some pretty serious stuff. He'd done state time. He's a drug dealer and such. So anyway, fast forward in November of 98, I bailed him. November 99, he skipped bond, and it was right around the Yosemite murders. The sightseers are missing, and just hit the papers. It was close to home. I'm in Calaveras County, and this is over in Mariposa County, so Tuolumne's in between, and I've posted bonds in Mariposa County, and I start chasing this guy Candler, and I'm finding out things that are tying him into these missing women, and I can't find this guy. Next thing I know, he's in Alabama, and that's when they found the victims' bodies, and Mrs. Carol Sund, and Silvino Peloso were in the trunk in Tuolumne County, and Julie's body was located deceased on Lake Don Pedro in Tuolumne County. Well, Paul Candler lived a quarter mile by boat to where they found Julie's body. And I thought, this guy is involved. This is his criminal history, the whole 9 yards. So I wrote a report to the FBI task force in Sonora, and searching was going on, and they recovered the bodies and such, but it was a big deal. And the 18-page report was never answered. So I went to the Carrington's attorney, Mr. Angel, and I got a phone call from Mr. Carrington, so I actually started looking into the other suspects.
Right, just to interrupt. Sorry, just to interrupt. So Carrington was the father of Carol Sund, whose daughter and her friend Silvina Peloso disappeared from Cedar Lodge outside of Yosemite. So it's kind of a bigger hotel. And so right. You are connected to them through their attorney, at least initially, correct?
Correct, yes. Mr. Carrington, he was the father of the victims, yes.
Gotcha. So please continue, sorry.
Oh, so anyway, I ended up meeting with the Carringtons, and they gave me some names that they'd received from the FBI, just, usual suspects and such. It was a very, very convoluted investigation. I mean, I give a lot of kudos to the FBI on this. I've dealt with these guys even more so than the FBI has, because being a bail bondsman in the Mother Lode, you're dealing with all sorts of, drug addicts and the dopers, tweakers, and, the whole 9 yards. Right. And it's a Wild West up there, like we spoke about earlier.
Right.
But I also befriended a lot of them. You can't do business with these people unless you got to show them some respect. The game. So I had a lot of eyes and ears up there. What was going on? So when all this stuff was going down, I knew I had people that would give me the people that may do something for the case.
Gotcha. And that whole area is just like, it's a beautiful area, but like we talked earlier, there's just a whole bunch of, like, you have the Modesto cranksters you talked about, a lot of methamphetamines, and, that was like the area where I think it was Robert Ang and Leonard Lake had their own, they were abducting people and murdering them, making snuff flips and stuff. That was in Calaveras County. So there is a kind of, and I lived up there in 1989, and there's a lot of sketchy stuff happening right around that area, man, in Yosemite, stuff like that. You really had to kind of be on your toes just to kind of watch out this. There's definitely an underbelly of threat, I would say. Would you agree with that?
Well, here's what after we spoke earlier today, I went ahead and made a very, very short list, if you want to hear it, about the large incidents in Calaveras County in the last 30 years.
Yes, sure.
Okay. Charles Ng, Leonard Lake, 1981, 25 victims. Of course, Leonard Lake took the cyanide pill. And then Charles Ng, I spoke with Sheriff Nuttall when they were extraditing Ng, just before he was going to extradite Ng from Canada. Because, they don't agree with capital punishment. So he was in exile up there for 20 years.
Right.
So I was out on the lake fishing in Maloney. I saw Sheriff Nuttall, and I said, what are you going to do with him? He goes, I'm going to drop him out of the plane at 30,000 feet. They wanted this guy so bad. These crime scenes, there was, babies in the microwaves for their mothers. I mean, it was just, you can't imagine this. And they were good for 25 murders. And then you came to the speed freak killers, Sherman, Tyne, and Herzog. And they were running around in the lower 80s, all the way to 99, 20 years, and they convicted them for 4 murders a few years ago, but they believe the body count of Sherman, Tyne, and Herzog, by the way, also Wilseyville, Charles Ng, Wilseyville area. Sherman, Tyne, Herzog, 72 bodies. They believe.
Wow, that's incredible.
And then you come again to Calaveras County, which this didn't get much press here, Bill, but the 7 bodies they found underneath Parrots Ferry Bridge in Calaveras, Columbia County in 2002. It was a Russian mob thing. Now, they killed him in L.A. Why'd they bring him to Calaveras County? Sanctuary, Bill. A lot of cover-ups.
Right.
And then you roll into Philip Marshall, which is not related directly to Calaveras County, but what it shows you is you're not safe anywhere in these mountains.
Right. Yeah. So people who don't know Philip Marshall, he was murdered with his kids up there, up there in the kind of hills in that same area where this all took place. But there's a lot
of Murphy. Yeah.
And there's
3 miles. Yeah.
If you want to add to that, the Golden State Killer kind of operated around that area as well, at least closer to the Central Valley, right?
Right, exactly. And I also believe, from my resources, that the Zodiac Killer was actually a teacher in San Andreas at one time.
Wow, I didn't know that.
So, yeah, that's another one. It's just, Calaveras in Spanish means skull, right?
Interesting. I didn't know that.
Okay. Yeah.
So it's a very terrifying case. And this guy too, Candler, your kind of chief person that you followed, was also a meth user, right? So these guys do meth. They get pretty crazy too, huh?
Oh yeah, and it's keeping up with them. And the paranoia is, you park a surveillance van or something really, it may be out of the ordinary for everyday purposes, but it's a junker. And they will come up there and they'll look at it like they're looking in a cage, man, with their eyes right in there. I mean, they notice everything. It's and so usually, you end up just getting people to befriend you, and stuff like that. But it's they're dangerous. This is the way they think they're dangerous,
Right. And this guy Candler, the interesting thing about this case, and a lot of people don't know about this case, is that there were other suspects other than Stainer. Most of the public just heard the Stainer story, but can you talk about some of these other characters who were alleged to be involved in the Yosemite Sightseer murders?
Sure. We arrested Candler, or apprehended Candler in Alabama, June 7th, 1999, about 5 a.m. Statewide manhunt. I'll get into that later. On June 9th, Tuolumne County District Attorney Nina Dean announces they have 9 suspects in custody regarding the Yosemite murders. Now, we're going right on, that's it is that easy,
Right.
There's those kind of people out there, and they all rat each other out. MOs and everything, just parole tails on these guys, they know what's going on. So 9 people, great, and they did not name Candler in that thing. They were trying to cover it up as the book shows, but they named Michael Larlick, Eugene Dykes, Soldier Stewart, Michael Utley,
Billy Joe Strange,
Billy Joe Strange, and they're all up there. And these small areas, as Kerry Stainer, he might have, I think he has marijuana and maybe a light meth beef before. He is, of course, suspect in his uncle's murder. That's another story. Right. But he wasn't a leader, man. He was. I interviewed his ex-girlfriend down by Fresno. I had about 2 minutes with her. but he was impotent, you know. And these guys, these guys like Candler and Larwick and Dykes, these guys are killers. Stainer wasn't a killer, you know. I mean, he had his problems, but nothing told me he did anything until it was Joey Armstrong, the naturalist that was murdered in Forester by Yosemite. When she was murdered, she's the fourth victim. I was pretty sure that he did that himself. The other murders involved with Candler. Candler seems to be a ringleader according to a lot of witnesses, but what I pointed out was as soon as they located Carol's son and Sylvina's body up there in Long Barn, these guys started running around like scared rats, and that's why Larwick was involved in a shootout in Modesto with a motorcycle cop named Steve Silva. And Steve survived. There was 30 rounds fired between the two of them. And then Larwick commandeered a house and took a family hostage for 23 hours.
Wow.
Okay? And he had all the same makings and police record and criminal history and M.O. as Paul Candler.
Right.
And then Larwick's half-brother, who was the first one rolled up, he was a rapist, and he's a half-brother. Father is the commonality in that, and he's a dirtbag. And so Eugene Dykes, he gets in a police pursuit, and he takes a family hostage in their home for about 13 hours. And they smoke him out.
Right, so all these guys are acting super suspicious, including Candler as well, right? So Candler runs.
Yeah.
Everybody's trying to.
Yeah, the only one I can get close to these guys because everybody cops are. I mean, this is news. I can't find in all the midst of this chaos. I can't find Candler yet. Still, I have not. You know, these guys are getting popped right before Candler. I find Candler.
Right.
You know, and that's yeah.
Right. So that was later. So the murders happened February 14th. The girl, they're missing for a month, right? The bodies are found a month later.
Sure.
And then right when those bodies found, that's when Candler skips is the next day. So he skips a bail hearing. That hires you. And so then you had to go to Alabama. That was a fascinating story in itself. Because that was the sketch where he turned up in Alabama. Well, you said it was like the hitman higher capital of the country or something like that, right?
Yeah, 2020 did a special on it years ago. That the mob and the mafia in New York and such they seemed to hire a hitman from down south, and Warrior, Alabama was the pinnacle lead story on that thing years ago, and I never really saw it, but I remember seeing part of it. I remember that it was Warrior, Alabama, and Candler, he was protected. The orb hat thing they hit on him is the reason I bailed him out was because he tried to hit another, kill another guy, even though he wasn't charged with that, but that was part of the deal, which I didn't know that even happened until afterwards. But that's where they recruit this because Candler, he fought. He did not waive extradition from Alabama. When we caught him, the FBI came in and interviewed him, and he fought extradition. So they had to get a governor's warrant, get him back to California. Guess what? A month and a half later, he got a phone call from a neighbor across the street. Now, this is Alabama, kind of rolling little like acreage, green things, and so your neighbor's 100 yards away. But anyway, he calls me and says Candler's back in the house. I'm like, what? They didn't even hold this guy for anything. He was back in Alabama, in Warrior, Alabama. Nobody runs to Alabama, and it's a hit capital. What is going on here?
Right.
Yeah, he was safe there. And so there's just things like that, it's like, and that's true. They finally had the pressure, I guess, from the case. He ended up doing 17 years in the Hatchapee for all sorts of, pedophile-type crimes, finally.
Right, and they had you actually had to fight with him, right? At the first arrest in June 7th, you guys were punching each other or whatever. But and then how does Joey Ruth Armstrong tie into this whole story? It's interesting because you mentioned Dennis McDougal. I interviewed about his book about the guy who killed like 100 young boys. But you say that he writes that he didn't even believe Stainer's story. But can you talk a little bit about Stainer?
Wait, I'm sorry.
In the context, talk about Joey Ruth Armstrong. Sorry.
Okay. Stainer was the lead guy, at the lodge. people will know, like when they read the book and such, the women were put up. It's February, and they're put up in the fourth tier in the snow. The only ones in the whole building, and the place in that time of year is half empty or more. They could have put them like 2-tier first floor. They put them by themselves in a whole tier up there. It was a setup from the beginning. I came from the front desk, everything. That's how connected these people are. You don't put 3 women in a winter up there. And so from there, Stainer was the guy, and he had other guys with him. But when it all happened, Stainer wanted to be famous. His brother, who was Stephen Stainer, who was I know my name is Stephen from the Mike Eccles book and the television movie. When he was found with Timmy White, Kerry Stainer was very jealous. Things happened. His brother got a lot of press, got a movie, book, everything. And Kerry really, that's what he mentioned to Ted Rollins with KTVU, was, I want a TV movie. So he killed Joey Armstrong for publicity.
Wow, that's crazy. It was a really brutal killing too. And she was
oh my God.
And she was attached to the Setter Lodge as well, right? She kind of was in that area, El Portal.
Yeah, she was in Forestville, which is right closer. It's more into the park, and she had what they called it was a green cabin, but there was a name for it. It's been used a lot of kind of like famous people. It's really cool, really beautiful young lady. She went out and took special kids and such around the park, and she was a naturalist. And what's interesting, Bill, is about 5 months ago I met her aunt.
Oh, fascinating.
And she found me. I was up running a health club up in Arm for a short time, and she came in and we spoke. I had tears in my eyes, and they knew there was a lot more to it. Her aunt was really great, but she said that excuse me, they had a feeling that she told her mom that she had a bad feeling about it up there a little bit. Can you hold on a second?
Sure, no problem.
Sorry about that.
No worries.
Anyway,
but that was kind of a commonality of all these cases. Everybody who looked at the Stainer case thought there was a lot more to that story. Primarily because how could one guy subdue 3 women? And I think the father of Carol's son said she was a fighter too. Like they wouldn't have just somebody point a gun. They wouldn't have just laid down.
No. When I met with the Carringtons after speaking with their attorney, I went up to Eureka, and they said definitely she was a fireball, and Julie was pretty tough. She was an athlete and a tough gal, and it's pretty tough to go in there with a gun. Did they comply? What's interesting too, the FBI didn't come out with the he had a gun, quote unquote, until Mr. Carrington told me that they didn't know about it. I never heard about it. I said they just told me. I'm not so sure they found a gun. I mean, they need something in there. Maybe that was it. I don't know.
They just needed something to confirm that story, probably, to make his story more legit.
Yeah. I mean, if he didn't have a gun, what else is going to scare them? So I think that I just don't. There was other people. Well, when I interviewed Mayor Sabatino, he identified Candler with Stainer when he was staying at the Cedar Lodge.
Wow.
Mayor Sabatino passed away a while back. A great guy, but he's Mayor Modesto. I interviewed him, and he confirmed he matched Candler with Stainer at the front door. Candler never, Stainer never went to a front door of any of the rooms at the Cedar Lodge by himself. He's always had somebody. All my witness said he was with somebody else.
Right, but didn't you say also there was another woman who saw Candler with Stainer, and and Stainer was with some of these other sketchy characters as well, right?
Rhonda Dunn, yes, she and her mother had vacation about August of '98, so a few months before February, and she recognized Candler, Stainer, and Dykes following her around at different times at the Cedar Lodge, and Rhonda's a respiratory therapist out of Northwestern. She has a photographic memory, Bill, and I've met with her 3 times. And so she put them together, and ID'd them. And matter of Rhonda and her mother left the Cedar Lodge the next day. And when I sent the photo lineup back to Chicago about a week later to Rhonda, and both her and her mother picked Candler out.
Wow, yeah.
Yeah, and the FBI called her into the Chicago office and had a meeting with her for 2 hours. Yeah, that was interesting.
Right, so the FBI is like flirting like around this case, but they were more than happy to drop their investigation into Larwick and Dykes once Stainer confessed, right?
Exactly. There's a mistake by the Stainer's defense with Marsha Morrissey. I mean, she went for insanity. And once you plead that, you can't change your plea. So, not guilty would have been fine. They brought Dykes in, and he took the fifth. But the thing is that the jury was already tainted that there's other suspects. They knew there were. If that thing with the trial, he with a good investigation, he might have walked on three of those murders.
Fascinating. And other people would have been involved.
Oh God, yeah, that's the whole thing. This guy Larry Utley, they pulled him out of Modesto when they started doing these parole sweeps. So after they got Dykes, Larwick, Stewart, Billy Joe Strange, they went after Michael Utley, and Michael Utley is a very close friend of Michael Larwick's, Mick Larwick. So Mick Larwick seems to be the leader of the whole thing.
Gotcha.
And Candler, but down in the valley, Larwick for sure. And they found the hotel key to their room on Mick Larwick's desk.
Wow.
In his house. Yeah. It never got out. You know who told me that?
No.
Mike Mooney from the Modesto Bee. Mike Mooney told me that.
Right, and he was one of the writers writing about possible other suspects when.
Oh yeah.
Right. So.
Absolutely. Yeah, Mike had it. Mike was real close. It's close to like Ron Cloward down there and such, who's on the case. But Mike Mooney is very close with the Stanislaus and Modesto PD. But the motel key is on Larry Utley's desk in his room when they make the arrest. And, really.
So, do you think that the front desk was somehow involved in just like putting the girls up in a very vulnerable position, and that's how this was pulled off? It's like a full inside job.
Yeah, totally full inside. Just because of that, I mean, the Carrington suspected that. Early on, I didn't look for a lot of involvement with anybody that had a badge or else because I knew it would screw me up or whatever. Wouldn't be best for the case. Mm-hmm. So stuff I got from the Carringtons, and usually that was one of them, and I got that from some other witnesses later, and it just made sense. And they had, it's just when in those areas, like I said, which I'll digress, is Billy Joe Strange, all those guys. You know what? There's two places to eat in the whole area. Whether they're going to get coffee or beer or whatever. They're going to know. Standard's going to know them all. They all know each other. The front desk people know each other. They all live in that area. And it's the total recipe.
Right. It's very true. There are kind of like small little locals who are networked in those areas, particularly outside of Yosemite, where El Portal is and stuff like that. They see each other all the time, and those guys are sketchy.
I mean, I lived in Sheepranch on and off for a year or two. I loved it, but all of a sudden the crank came in and got heavy in there, like a lot of places. They cleaned it up a little bit, but those little areas, it gets concentrated. There's nothing to do,
Right.
Yeah.
And can you talk a little bit about this Dr. Wong who disappeared out of Bear Valley in July 9th, 2000?
I would, yes, absolutely. I would say this is what the key that told me Candler was a hitman, okay? Not everybody else telling me or him living in a town that the mob recruited from. What it is that Dr. Wong, February
19th, 2000?
Yeah, thank you. I'm making my notes here. February 19th is skiing with her husband and two kids up in Mount Reba, Bear Valley, Alpine County, which borders eastern Calaveras County. And beautiful day. I mean, it was sunny, the whole thing. And Dr. Wong was a OBGYN, and her husband is a doctor. He's a dentist. So they have money and everything. So they're skiing, and all of a sudden they can't find Mrs. Wong. So he goes down to ski patrol and starts to put a rescue thing out. They search, can't find Mrs. Wong. It's getting dark. Well, this was interesting. The first thing is the other Mr. Dr. Wong takes the kids and goes back to Milpitas. Doesn't even hang around in a motel room. His wife's missing.
Right.
Okay, kind of okay. He's not that kind of guy, I don't think. So what happens is, searching whatever happens. Well, the day after we apprehend Chandler in Alabama, Mrs. Wong's body's found in Mount Reba. Okay, this is packed. The paper came out the next day, and I went, holy smokes, wow. Chandler and his girlfriend Barbara Dobbins lived in Arnold. Arnold's 30 miles from Mount Reba.
Wow.
One way. The maps I did in the book, kind of start looking at it, and, driving from Mariposa up to Lombard, I mean, that's just 2 hours. Driving from Arnold to Bear Valley. So what I think is Mr. Wong put a hit on his wife for the insurance. As a matter of fact, the insurance company, and I didn't check, but when I talked to the deputy, which I'll get into, they were trying to hunt the deputy out, who was the coroner at the case up there, because they didn't want to pay out. They believed that was a homicide.
Right. So they thought it was a homicide, but what was suspicious is they didn't find her body for like 3 or 4 months, right? So where's her body? And it's almost like some of these other cases. And I was interesting, at the end of your book, you ran into the Chandra Levy parents, and it's almost like the same thing, because I was in D.C. when Chandra Levy disappeared, and she was in Fort Creek Park or whatever it was. And it was looked over with like a fine-tuned comb.
Oh, I know. You know what? She was moved after everybody left the scene.
Right. So she wasn't there. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, they brought the whole academy out there. They brought 500 guys, and I mean, you can only bury so much in maple leaves. But what the thing was is that with Dr. Wong, she disappears a few days after the girls, and I arrest Chandler, and the next day, Chandler gave the FBI that body. That's what happened. He murdered her. So he says, I'll give you a body, let me off this other shit. Excuse my language, I'm sorry. Let me off this other stuff. Paul Chandler is the one who killed Dr. Wong. It was a hit by the husband.
Interesting.
So this is how I know this. So I have little Jimmy Murphys in between all these things going on, and this guy walked in one day. He was an Alpine County deputy, and he was the coroner, and it was his case when the bodies disappeared, Dr. Wong. So he's over in Minden shopping with his wife. He gets a page to go up there. They found remains up on the northwest south slope, or whatever, a walking distance from the lodge. Literally, they found skeletal remains identified positively as Dr. Wong. He told me in the secret meeting, he wouldn't even give me his name, literally, okay, that he was a former LASO, San Diego County Sheriff. He's seen homicides, Bill,
Right.
He said that there was tool marks across the lower skull where the vertebrae was. It was cut. He said it wasn't chewed by animal. There was tool marks there as a saw.
Wow.
And he said that the way the bones were and everything. He said there was a bed, like a wooden bed and leaf kind of thing, like almost like a little comfort zone that was prepared. So it was they were waiting.
So they were just waiting to dump the body there to make it look like an accident?
Right, here's your MO. The head was cut off. Okay?
Right.
Same thing, and Chandler lived there, and that's what put me right on it. I mean, yeah.
But it was also, there was another element that was like a theme in your investigation, is all these people were trying to save face too, right? So they're firing people, and there always seems to be a concern by the authorities about looking good in any of these circumstances.
Oh, when I saw Senator Grassley out of Iowa came out when this was going on, and it was going to be like the Whitewater with the FBI or something, right? Mm-hmm. And so what happened is Senator Grassley said that this was the worst bungle since Ruby Ridge in Waco by the FBI, these Yosemite cases now. And so he was calling for an oversight committee to get involved, because he was our lead, he was our ranking member for the intelligence back then. So he was looking at the FBI. He was already probing him anyway on this other stuff, and then they got rid of Maddox. They had 50, I couldn't believe the number, I double-checked, 50 FBI agents coming to Sacramento to relieve James Maddox, who was being groomed as our Western Hemisphere director. He would have been director sooner or later, probably. So they take him, he gets sent to South Dakota.
Wow.
And about another 12 or so lead agents get sent, spread out everywhere else. And then
that's like being sent. That's the equivalent of being sent to Siberia.
I know. Yeah, it is, and I mean Sacramento. I mean, great office. I mean, he did a good job on the church bombings. He's a good agent, but they came in there. But the thing was, they made a mistake. They said we got 9 guys in custody. You can see it on the internet. James Maddox was there. Next thing you know, we don't know what to do. And they get named Stainer. That's what happened. And then I was involved in between the two of that, wiggling through all this, figuring what I'm going to do on it. As I was getting a lot of information they didn't have. I mean, I never talked to Nick Rossi until Dykes was called in on the Stainer case, and he called me the night before and asked me for a report because Dykes coming in. He picked the 5th, but they started to want to see what I had at that time. They never talked to me in 2 years.
Right. Wow.
Swear to God, isn't that something?
Yeah, no, but it's not. I mean, I've seen so many of these other cases. It's just not that surprising that they were kind of trying to do their own investigation on their own without you. Would you agree with that?
Well, yeah. I mean, I wasn't a cop anymore. I mean, I was technically even a private investigator in a lot of ways, except for my partner, Rick James, who helped me on a lot of it. He was licensed. But I was, a citizen just doing our thing. And the Carringtons never paid me a dime. I'd never asked them for anything. I just saw this as, I help. I mean, there's nobody who could do this except me because of my previous experience with Mariposa. So, I was like, believe it or not, I'm not saying it wasn't easy. I mean, it was a little stressful. It wasn't that hard to follow the leads, Bill. These people, they all have mothers and sisters. I don't care, just because you take drugs doesn't mean you're the worst guy in the world, but they still have, souls. So I got a lot of help just, basically just saying, hey, man, these guys are the worst. They'll kill your parents or whatever. And, and people actually, it helped. I didn't go in there busting chops,
And wasn't there we just talked about this offline about there was kind of in this environment at the time, there was a huge drug trafficking thing going down, transporting drugs at least through Mariposa or some of these smaller airports. Is that right?
Yeah, that was a lot. That would have a lot to do with Candler. Probably a lot of his business. I didn't try to tie Candler in, all sorts of stuff. It just, it just did it, this thing with the bail and jump and stuff. But yeah, they're all tied into one way or other. But with Mariposa, they were known investigations and they have flight pictures and plans of them coming in with cocaine into the airport. So the cocaine went into Yosemite Park and distributed from Los Angeles to San Francisco, and this started up back even when the Contras and the guns were going on,
right.
And Barry Seal. So it went all the way up to when I was doing it because of things that happened. I was involved with up there that told firsthand when I was doing bounties from people in jail that Mariposa County is the sheriff. Everybody's dealing drugs, and 2020 went in there and did an investigation with Tom Jarrell.
Interesting, right? Yep.
Yeah.
And but the drugs wasn't there a testimony or statement that one of the girls, when she was seen alive after they went missing, that she was seen drugged?
Julie was held for a month, and what they did was she was blonde and what have you, and that's what they wanted, and she was held. They figured I have her placed in Larwick's garage, and I could probably confirm it. And I didn't even confirm it before the book was written because I didn't hear about it till later. But she was held as a sex slave. Some of the notes I mentioned earlier talk about a video being made where she was drugged up and gang raped, and that's the kind of things I was getting. And it's connected to a 1% group. Hell's Angels, they have nothing to do with this, I guarantee that, and there's no leads to that. But a rogue 1% group, bikers were involved. But she was held as a sex slave and displayed, they were saying. I mean, the word displayed on her really, I'll send the notes to you later, displayed as an object. I mean, it just makes me sick.
Wow, that's so terrifying.
It's terrible. Oh, yeah. I mean, Julie's, it's a sad story, but hers, I mean, Stainer didn't do it. Just the letter he sent to the FBI and all that kind of stuff. We had fun with her. He it's plural. It wasn't I.
Right, plural. Right.
Yeah.
Plural pronoun. And then So Candler went to jail in 2000, supposedly for 17 years. Where is he? Where are some of these characters now?
Larwick's still in state prison. I wouldn't be able to tell you where exactly. High Desert, maybe Pelican Bay, maybe Susanville. Half brother Dykes, he's still in. I'm not sure. I think Quentin. Paul Candler, he was paroled about 2.5 years ago, and the Wilseyville, which is in Calaveras County, which is interesting. Like I said, it's the same little town as Ing and Leonard Lake.
Right.
The other guys, I'm not sure. Some are probably dead. I mean, what drugs they do.
Gotcha. Well, Steve, we are at 40 minutes. Is there anything that you'd like to add? Anything that I might have missed? Any contact information or anything you want to share?
Oh, if people want to read the book, that'd be great.
When it's available on Amazon, correct?
Yeah, Ultimate Prey, the true story behind the Yosemite Sightseer murders, and I think you'll enjoy it, and I'd love to hear request responses. I answer everything, and we're also getting toward production. It looks like for short miniseries, possibly on Netflix.
Awesome. Well, I hope that works out. It's a great book. I finished it this morning, and
you liked it?
You
like it? Yeah,
had an electricity to it. I mean, I really.
Oh, cool.
I thought your style was really good. Yeah. So.
Oh, thanks, brother.
I'd highly recommend
thanks for having me on.
Steve, thank you so much. I appreciate it so much. Again, the book title is Ultimate Prey: The True Story Behind the Yosemite Sightseer Murders by Stephen Sanzeri, spelled S-A-N-S-E-R-I, available on Amazon. Stephen Sanzeri, thank you very much.
Oh, S-A-N-Z-E-R-I.
S-A-N-C-E-R-I.
Z as in zebra.
Z-E-R-I, sorry.
There you go.
Sorry, my mistake. Sanzeri, I apologize. All right, Steve, have a great day.
Take care. Bye.
All right, bye-bye.